Evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's FGB committee meeting, and we'll start this meeting at 7 o'clock. First item on the agenda is public question time. Don't have any.
We've got one member of the public in the Zoom room, but he's, in case he doesn't wish to speak, he's just here to listen.
Oh, lovely. Well, welcome to that member of the public. Thank you for attending. Next item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Councillor Visser sent his apologies this evening. Can we have a vote to accept those apologies, please? That's agreed, 10 o'clock. Next item is to receive the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of June. I'd like to propose these for accuracy. Can I have a second, please?
I'd like to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Can we, any questions on those minutes? No? Okay. So can we vote to accept those minutes? Thank you.
That's fine, Chairman, please.
Good, get up.
Sorry.
It's not comfortable sitting there.
Go back a minute.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to receive any declarations of interest. Do I have any? No. No. Okay. Next item is the chairman's announcements. And I've got a little bit to read out here, I'm afraid. The consultation of the boundary changes is with the consultation group, and a response will be made. Please can councillors ensure that their views on the proposal to reduce the town wards from 6 to 5, resizing Herentide and Worstead wards, and renaming Worstead to Worstead and Rural. Ensure that the comments are submitted to the group for response. The closing date for submission is 8th November. Please therefore can comments be with the town clerk by the end of October to ensure the draft can be circulated before submission. Budget work is underway. Chairman have been asked for projects and/or financial allocations requested for next year. Please can they be submitted to the clerk as soon as possible so that a draft can be circulated well before the next cycle. While we will not know the council tax base until December, and the unions are still negotiating a pay settlement for this year, the remaining draft work can be allocated to the cost centres. Remember that Sunday parade arrangements are going well. The various bookings have been made for sound and the bugler. The road closure has been applied for and volunteers contacted. The service sheet is in draft and almost complete with notable dignitaries confirmed, and wreaths are ordered. We are now looking to see if we can establish the groups who are attending to lay wreaths to help the parade marshal with the parade order. And thanks to Councillor Whitaker, who as the RDL liaison for Remembrance Sunday, he is working with the clerk on this event. Councillors are asked to attend this service wearing town council scarf for ladies and a tie for the gentlemen for the parade meeting at King Street at 10:15 AM. A reminder email will come from the clerk's personal assistant nearer the date. Thank you. Next item is to receive the list of approved payments for June, July and August 21. Are there any queries on that or any questions? This is for noting.
Yeah, I have two on payments.
Councillor Owens, you're not a member of this committee. However, I will allow you to speak once.
Okay. In regards to the I to comply training costs of £126 for 7 courses, what was that for? Was it all the same course? And secondly, in August, there was 3 hours of website support costing £105. Is that something the town council intends to bring in-house at some point? It does seem very expensive. And I'm technically capable of managing the website. I've taken one up recently. So are some town council officials also capable as well, or capable of being capable at some point in the future?
Do you take the first
The
one?
first one?
I'll take the first one, the second one. The answer to your first question, Councillor Amos, is the payment for the 7 training courses. It wasn't all for the same. It was 6 members of staff doing a COSH training and 1 member of staff doing asbestos training.
What's COSH?
That's what it stands for now. It's a
It's
It's health and
safety.
yeah, it's health and safety.
Chemicals,
Yeah.
chemicals and substances.
yeah,
Thank you. Chemicals and substance hazards, yes.
Hazards, yeah.
yeah. It's basically
There's
training
mileage
for
in there somewhere, isn't there?
It's a legal requirement.
Yes. Because it was online training, they get their certificates at the end of it, so you can't share it. You have to,
Yeah.
how they make the money, yeah, and you have to all individually go in, so that's what that is. In response to, on that point? Did you
No,
jump in?
no question.
Okay,
Sorry.
in response to the second question, which I've forgotten what it was, website. We have a contractor who is Andrew, his name's so big on completely, isn't it dreadful?
Taylor.
Thank you, Andrew Taylor, who does our outside work for us. So he does things which we don't do, which includes the programming language of IT. That's not something that anybody in our organisation at the moment has got those skills. That's not to say that they won't do something in the future. And it's not to say that we will move to a type of platform whereby we won't necessarily need to have those type of skills. So he's a retained individual, does very few hours work for us. What it tends to be is significant redesign, where we're asking for a new page to be set up or something which is above what our skill base is in the office. But that's not to say at some point in time that won't change. And we do from time to time go back and retender that.
Thank you. Councillor Whittaker.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, please. In the June page, there's a £7,000 payment for future column infrastructure, sorry, festive column, I think. Is that, I assume that's reinforcing or testing the columns, is that correct?
Sorry,
Yeah,
which
okay,
one was that? The infrastructure payment, no, that was having to I'm taking note, I'm going to forget what this question was. Oh, that's right, I'll watch it back on there. Where we put the infrastructure onto the lamp columns, some of that had to be updated because it was pre the work that we'd previously done. We blew a lamppost, so it was a requirement for us to go around all the ones where we've got things attached to them to make sure that they were absolutely spick-spack and nothing was going to then blow on them. SSE required it, or they wouldn't have allowed us to continue having access. We knew about it. It was the work that went through committee last year, but it was only done this year.
Okay, thank you. In July, there was a £7,000 payment for flooring in the reading hall. Is that new flooring or is that repairs? Sorry.
No, that was the damage that was caused by ABC when they were using the Reading Hall as the vaccine centre, and we had to repair the floor. They paid. We upgrade. The repairs came to a cost of around about £4,000. That was paid by ABC, and the extra amount was where we upgraded it to enhance it so that it's better, which means that we should now have a floor that doesn't need to be touched with regards to repairs for another 10 years. So we just take.
Can I ask what the nature of the damage was? And how?
They dragged some fridges initially across the floor, and it's a sprung dance floor, as you know.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, although the damage wasn't that large an area,
Yeah.
was it significant enough that it resulted in the whole
Right,
thing
okay.
having to be redone
Right,
and
thank
rebadged.
Right, and lastly, in July, there was 2,400 for a digital interactive map license. Is that a one-off payment for a year or for longer than that?
I'm going to have to come back to you on that one. That's to do with the wayfinding. And I'm not sure if that's an annual payment or was a one-off. I can't remember, so I'll have to come back to you and let you know that one.
Because I know we've got the license for tree mapping stuff as well. I didn't know if it
That
was
one's
that.
separate. No, that's definitely, this
Or
was
something else.
definitely the wayfinding, definitely the wayfinding, but I have to check whether that's for the current one, I'm not
All
sure.
right, okay.
Okay, any more questions on that item? I have none, so can that be noted? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Town Council Finances Decision Statement, and I'll hand that over to Mr. Chambers to run through that.
Thank you. Yeah, total balances at the end of August, as detailed, were 1.2 million, which is an increase on this time last year, which was just over 1 million. You may well notice some of the figures in the table provided looking slightly strange. There is a good reason for this. From the last financial and general purposes committee meeting, where the committee approved that we were moving £325,000 out of the national counties. So at the time of writing this report, we had just received that money back from national counties. Obviously, there was a notice period on withdrawing the funds. The 150,000 of that 325 has been invested in the local authorities property fund, hence the increase in the balance from 150 to 300. You can see obviously the national counties balance has gone down by the 325, which leaves 175. At the 31st of August, that £175,000 was sat in our NatWest current account, as it had only just come back in there. Gone through the process of searching essentially for a new bank account, building society account, where we are going to invest the 175,000. That is now invested. So obviously, if I was producing that table as of today, those figures would be different. The £175,000 is invested with the Nationwide Building Society, which was, out of all the possible accounts that suited our needs, was the one with the highest credit rating. Went through the various different credit agencies of Moody's, Fitch, Standard & Poor's, and they nationwide were AA rated. There are currently no banks or building societies that are AAA rated. The interest rate is unfortunately a pitiful 0.3%, but the best that was available anywhere was 0.4%. And when you're investing 175,000, 0.1%, so £175, it didn't really seem risk and reward worth going with a slightly less stable investment, a less stable bank for the sake of £175. So hence it is in, that's where it is, it's in the Nationwide Building Society. Just to touch on the next table that's included there, it is a table I've previously put into reports. I just think it helps to sort of give you all an idea of where we are at this time in the year. As you'll see in there, all the current variances against where we'd expect to be are all showing as a favourable variance at this point in time. Just to very quickly run through them to give you a sort of overall reasons for the variances. Cost centre 100, the democratic representation, that is because we haven't yet spent we have a budget every year for election costs, which haven't yet been spent, and it's unlikely to be. If it is unspent, it goes into an earmarked reserve at the end of the year. Cost centre 200, corporate management, we haven't yet received our bills for internal or external audit fees for this current financial year. So as and when those are paid, that would obviously increase. Cost centre 300 is, we have an underspend at the moment on the building repairs and maintenance budget, which is probably our biggest revenue budget of 50,000. Of currently, off the top of my head, I think we've only spent about 13,000 to date in building repairs and maintenance. Cost centre 400, favourable variance. That's the one where most of our grants get paid from that cost centre, our annual grants. So the majority of those grants haven't yet been spent. Cost centre 500, planning. We haven't yet had any expenditure on planning consultancy, and only £5,500 so far has been spent on the neighbourhood plan in the current year. Cost centre 600 is the underspend. There is predominantly on the staffing budget, where we'd allowed, when the budget was created for this year, for an additional role, a member of staff within the tourism section. That role is still to be filled, hence the underspend in that budget. Cost centre 700, cemetery services, is almost bang on where we'd expect it to be. And finally, civic pride. The income is the reason for the variance is the income is ahead of target, and we haven't yet had our annual bill from West Sussex County Council for street lighting, which is always around sort of 14,000. So yeah, as and when we receive that bill, obviously that variance would change. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Ms Jones. Is there any questions? Councillor Belsey.
I'm sure you explained it. Could you just go over it again for me in simplistic terms? The total deposit in our bank's balance in 2019 was 1,020,000. In 20 it was 1,013,000. This year it's 1,217,000, making a difference that we've got an increase of £204,000 in our bank account. What was the reason? How have we got an extra 205,000 this year? Essentially, it is for a combination of all of those variances that I've just sort of went through, meaning that we, in simplistic terms, we haven't yet spent as much as we had at this point in time last year. 200,000. Yeah, well, I mean, those variances that are just sort of going through in the those revenue cost centres, those variances total over 100,000. Right. Yeah. So that is essentially the bottom line of it. So it's quite a variance. It is, yeah. In time. Yeah, in time, yeah, but in time, obviously, it should. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We're just coming back into normal times gradually, aren't we? So,
yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Whittaker.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. A couple of points. Thank you. Just picking up on Councillor Mrs. Belsey's point. Obviously, as the chairman has said, we're starting the budget process. As part of that process, we know that you will do a projection on this year's expenditure against this year's budget to see whether we get the sort of yeah. So that's quite an interesting observation that we're 200,000 under so far. Secondly, just wanted you say that the expenditure for the estates and repairs and maintenance is well below. Is Mrs. Merrick's all right? Because normally she's normally trying to spend her budget. Trust me, she's always off. Just want to make sure she's all right.
She is, and I have raised that very point with her. Yeah.
I think, to be very fair, there's been some specific projects that she's been involved in which have kind of kept her busy, so that she hasn't been able to go and find things that need repairing.
I think the play park being one of them. There's some expected expenditure that we have to look at for that's coming down the line, and that is so important because it's well used by the community. Well, that report is for noting. Is that noting? Noted. Noted. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Next item is the performance indicators. Is there any questions on those? Can we note that if there isn't any? Noted. Thank you. Next one, recommendations from committees. There are no recommendations from A&T. The only one is Public Services Committee, which is in the papers. The cost is not yet known, but not believed to exceed £2,000. The council asked to allocate budget next year to this. This committee are asked to approve that the item be budgeted for. The Eastwood Society and St Swithin's Church are being asked to carry out their part of the overall project, which have received favourable responses, although their committees are yet to formally vote on this. The council have not agreed to take on their area of work should they decide not to. It is just to repair and replace the gate and put up the plaque to acknowledge the work and Queen's Jubilee that the council will fund. That item is in the report somewhere, but it's all over the place.
Page 2, Chair.
Right, is there any questions? Councillor Peacock.
Just a quick one. I think overall I would support it. Does the repair and replacement of the gate, is it dependent on the works carried out by their groups, or it doesn't, it's not affected, it can be
No,
replaced?
not at all. It's a completely standalone. If they choose not to go ahead with their project, it'll be a shame because the whole area could do with being tidied up. But at the very least, the gate will be replaced.
Thank you.
Any more questions on that? Yes, I'd like to propose that. Can I have a seconder, please?
Right, so second that, Chair.
Is that all agreed?
Agreed.
It's agreed. Right, next item is delegated decisions. There have not been any delegated decisions this quarter. So move on to community revenue grants. This is to note the report and standing grants. And just to note that Eastwoods in Bloom advised the clerk that they will not be claiming their grant this year. And they did not submit to the South and South East in Bloom this year. And there has been going on disruption due to the pandemic. This budget line will be therefore underspent this year. Excuse me. Regarding the applications, there have only been 2 despite advertising. It is noted, like Bloom, that many groups have not restarted or not developed projects this year. Therefore, the recommendation is tabled for your consideration. The recommendation is £315 for the Grimsby Talking News and £500 for Parkinson's, while they have asked actually for £3,000, as you can see. It is noticed that that would cover the full cost, yet they have not approached Worth Parish, Crawley Borough or any other funder, despite 60% of their members being outside of East Grimsby and the Haven Centre being based in Crawley Down. A contribution is supported, but not the full amount. So I'm going to propose that. I have a seconder.
I'd like to second that, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Peacock.
Just for clarity on what it's just occurred to me actually, I should have raised it earlier. On the town council's rep on the Greenstone Talking News, it's not normally an issue. I just thought I'd flag it.
Yeah, thank you. That's noted. Any other questions? No. Okay, can we go to a vote on that, please? It's unanimous, down card.
That's for both parts of that.
Pardon?
That's for both parts of those. You took them together, did you, Chair? There were two decisions there.
Right, yeah, yes.
It was taken together. Thank you very much.
Agreed. Okay, item 11 on the 12 on the agenda. Sorry, I've got different number of items here. Is St Barnabas Church building, and I'm asking the committee to seek approval to enter into discussion with a view to purchase this old church building. This is straightforward. The building is to become available and it would seem appropriate to keep it in public use. There are groups that meet there already, and of course there are other needs for groups in the town, including the like of men's shed and youth cafes. This purchase could help to support the community in the Dungens area and is therefore proposed as per the recommendation in the papers that the clerk start discussion with the owners of the building, of the buildings. I'd like to propose that. Can I have a seconder?
I'd like to second that, Chair.
Is there any questions? Councillor Mrs. Belsey.
Can I ask who owns it?
Since the church,
The church.
yes. Councillor
It's the
Whittaker.
diocese,
Or
actually.
diocese.
Yeah, buildings are always the diocese. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Staying corrected on that one. Councillor Whittaker.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of comments really. First of all, there are no reports or any details pertaining to this agenda item. So it's very thin. Normally, an item like this would go to a park and exclude the public. So I feel nervous we're discussing this in open council. Can I ask why there are no wider reports on this? It's just been tabled.
Well, we haven't reached that stage yet. We're just asking the committee if we can enter into negotiations to come back to committee with the finances known. And then, of course, when it is discussed, it will go to a closed vote, discussion.
Can I ask if the building is being marketed?
I'm not sure on that. We're not aware that it's been marketed at the moment.
Well, we've been told at the council meeting back in April, recently, that we had a member of the public turn up the meeting and tell us that this building was due to be marketed. Following that, made some approaches to St Swithin's and asked them what the position was, and they've told me yes, the decision has been made to dispose of the building, but nothing further has happened as yet. So it is intended to be marketed, but the question is at this point is would the committee like us to go and express an interest directly to the church and start discussions with them? We may be able to avoid some expenditure with regards to some professional fees if we can obviously reach an agreement to purchase or transfer prior to going onto the open market. We might not be able to. It was just asking the committee at this point if you are interested in the purchase of the building, and if so, do you want me to continue to further to make some inquiries, to start negotiations with it, but certainly does not give us any ability or any authority to enter into an agreement. That's got to come back. And you're quite right, we need to have surveys. We've got nothing at the moment. This is just simply the principle of that building that I'm just asking what the committee wants me to do. If the committee doesn't want me to do anything, we'll do nothing. And obviously, if it comes onto the open market, then you may find we're a bit late. Just trying to get in there quick, I think.
It's basically a fact-finding mission to bring it back to committee.
Is there any price expectation?
We don't know.
No idea at all. I have asked and I've been told no idea.
Councillor Peacock, sorry.
I think you've clarified it, but to repeat, it's just authorisation to find information. It's none of it will be binding. It's early stages. We come back to committee, the councils, and discuss what you find, if indeed you do find anything.
Well, absolutely. Like I just mentioned, this is to instruct the town clerk on a fact-finding mission to find out the details. Once we know all the financial details and that sort of thing, then we can bring it back to committee to make a decision whether we want to proceed on this issue. But at the moment, it's just to give formal authority to the town clerk to pursue and find out the facts on that.
Thank
you. Town Mayor.
Thank you. During the course of the fact finding, town clerk, will you be ascertaining the condition of the building? what needs to be done to update it or whatever.
Yeah, that's the second part of the recommendation, that incurring the professional fees as necessary, and that would include surveying without any doubt whatsoever. And I don't even know at the moment what or if the diocese have done some of this work already.
Exactly.
I just don't know anything about it, but I'd be very reticent about going and starting an open conversation with the diocese. We've had a conversation with St Swithin's, but it will be with the diocese.
Great. No, I'm fully supportive of it. I think it's a great idea. It's many uses, but we need to be good, obviously.
Right. Councillor Amos, one question only, please.
Okay. Since this was pitched in the papers as a debate on the principle of the issue, I thought I'd bring some opposition to the table to ensure that you properly put forward the case in principle for purchasing this building. Firstly, I'd like to say this council has raised public spending, it's raised taxation, and now it's proposing to nationalise private property. I really can't see the difference between the Conservative Party at local government level and the Labour Party at local government level. And I really would like to know what the fundamental difference is. That's the first question.
One question, Councillor
And
Amos.
the rest is merely commenting. The arguments I'd like to make against St Barnabas Church being purchased by the town council is markets allocate resources far more efficiently than the councils. Wherever the goods, or rather the land, is sold to.
Sorry, can I interrupt you, Councillor Amos? If you could be brief, please. Can you round up to your nearest sentence?
If people really want this to be a community centre, they can crowdfund it themselves. It's morally wrong to take from some people who have no interest whatsoever in a community centre to better other people who do.
Thank you,
So I'm
Councillor Amos.
firmly against these proposals.
I'm stopping you there because you're not a
We've
member
got
of
an
this.
hour and a half to debate. I'm going to wrap it up in about 40 minutes. What's the point of these committees?
Councillor Amos, you're not a member of this
That
committee.
is true.
I've given you the courtesy of asking 2 lots of questions tonight, and I'm afraid that we know you're not very happy with the council supporting the communities, but so I'm going to stop you there, and I'm going to go to I've proposed it. My vice chairman has seconded it. Can we go for a vote, please? Sorry, Councillor Whitaker. You want to
Can I come back if that's all right?
Yeah,
I'll just try and reassure Councillor Amos, because I too have some reservations about the process and about the speed tonight. And I don't feel necessarily that the town council should be a residential property company. We do have other public buildings effectively in the portfolio, so I do have some sympathy with Councillor Amos. I'd just like from tonight, in principle, for a discussion, I'm okay with the decision. I'm nervous about it coming back in abbreviated version through this committee again, which potentially could be December or before. And I would like the reassurance that the full papers, a full business case, be presented to this committee should early discussions prove fruitful. And as a part B.
Absolutely, of course, nothing's going to be brushed under the carpet. Once we get all the facts, we can bring it back to committee. Sorry?
I'm not suggesting that would be the case. I'm just merely requesting reassurance that there will be a full fact business case presented.
Well, yeah, obviously there will. If we're looking into, if it does get to the stage where we're purchasing something, then yeah, everything, yeah, there would be a business case for it. After all, this is not just the town council purchasing the building. I think what members got to realise, as it says in the paper, this is for community use. And we're always talking about there's no youth facilities and this sort of thing. And if this did go ahead, then that would be maybe provided space for them. Councillor Mrs. Fallon.
I just wanted to agree with Councillor Whitaker that I absolutely think, yes, go for talks, find out what's going on, and then there's, you know, there is no more discussion until that is there on the table, and I completely agree with what he said.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all agree on that. All we're asking tonight is for the town clerk to look into, get the facts or the figures to bring it back to group. Councillor Miss Darcy.
Thank you. I think it obviously it's really important, community centres, but this isn't the only building. We've actually still got Swan Mead, which is empty. I mean, we could explore with Mid Sussex the possibility of looking at that building, which is in the centre of town. It's absolutely empty, got quite large facility for community use. I just don't think it's the only one. So I wondered if we could sort of look at possibilities as they are in the town, as opposed to just one. We seem to be looking to any possibility of community buildings that we might be able to use. That was it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've no idea what district are doing with that at the moment. I would imagine they want to sell it for housing, but obviously I don't know that for sure. But you know, the Dunnings area is a community of its own. I'm not just saying that would be used for the people of Dunnings only, it would be used for the people of the whole town. But yeah, it's quite location is probably better than Queen's Hall. But yeah, thank you for your comment. Is there any more? No. So can we go to the vote? That's carried. Okay, so I will close this meeting at 7:35, and thank you for your attendance. And the next meeting of the committee will be held on the 16th of December 2021.